अभी हमने इसमें बटर डाला है।
अच्छा।
इसके बाद हम इसमें अब चाय डालेंगे।
Hidden deep within the barren mountains of Ladakh, where towering cliffs surround a narrow valley and silence echoes through the Himalayas, stands a monastery that has quietly watched the passage of time for more than 400 years. Long before roads connected these mountains, before travelers arrived with cameras, and before Ladakh became known to the outside world, this monastery had already become a place of prayer, learning, and devotion. This is Hemis Monastery, the largest and one of the most important Buddhist monasteries in Ladakh. Every year, thousands of people travel across the high Himalayas to reach this remarkable place. Some come to witness its famous festival. Others arrive seeking peace, history, or spiritual understanding. Yet despite its growing reputation, Hemis still feels hidden from the modern world. Surrounded by steep mountains and built away from the main trade routes of the past, it remains protected by the same landscape that sheltered it centuries ago. The journey to Hemis is unlike visiting an ordinary monument. Leaving the busy streets of Leh behind, the road follows the mighty Indus River through Ladakh's cold desert, where mountains rise without forests and the landscape appears almost untouched by time. Small villages, white stupas, and fluttering prayer flags occasionally break the endless stretches of rock and sand, reminding travelers that life has found a way to flourish even in one of the harshest environments on Earth. As the road turns away from the river, the valley becomes quieter. The mountains close in from every side, hiding what lies ahead. Then, almost unexpectedly, Hemis Monastery comes into view, standing against the rocky slopes with its white walls, wooden balconies, and golden rooftops reflecting the Himalayan sunlight. From a distance, it seems less like a building and more like a natural part of the mountain itself. Its location was never chosen by chance. For centuries, these mountains offered protection from conflict, harsh weather, and the outside world. While kingdoms changed, borders shifted, and civilizations rose and disappeared across Asia, life inside Hemis continued according to the same daily rhythm. Monks gathered before sunrise, ancient scriptures were carefully preserved, and Buddhist teachings were passed from one generation to the next without interruption. To understand why Hemis became the spiritual heart of Ladakh, we must first explore the extraordinary landscape that surrounds it, because in the Himalayas, geography has always shaped both history and belief. The story of Hemis Monastery begins with its landscape. Unlike many famous monasteries built beside towns or major trade routes, Hemis was established inside a secluded valley on the southern bank of the Indus River, nearly 45 kilometers from Leh. High mountains surround the monastery on every side, creating a natural barrier that has protected it from harsh winds, invading armies, and the rapid changes that transformed much of the outside world.
सबसे कामयाब जिंदगी होगी अगर आप जिए तो दूसरों के लिए जिए.
This isolated setting was one of the reasons Hemis survived for centuries, while many other Himalayan monasteries faced periods of conflict and decline. The region itself is part of Ladakh's cold desert, one of the highest inhabited landscapes on Earth. Most of the surrounding mountains remain dry throughout the year, receiving very little rainfall because the Himalayas block the moisture carried by the Indian monsoon. As a result, the valleys appear rugged and barren, yet streams flowing from melting glaciers make small patches of cultivation possible. These narrow green fields have supported villages, monasteries, and travelers for hundreds of years. Hemis Monastery was founded in the 17th century during the reign of King Sengye Namgyal, one of Ladakh's greatest rulers. The monastery belongs to the Drukpa lineage of Tibetan Buddhism, a tradition known for emphasizing meditation, compassion, and spiritual discipline. Under royal patronage, Hemis quickly grew into one of the most influential religious centers in the Himalayan region, attracting respected teachers, scholars, and monks from across Tibet and Ladakh. Over the centuries, the monastery became far more than a place of worship. It developed into a center of learning, where Buddhist philosophy, sacred scriptures, traditional medicine, art, and ritual practices were carefully preserved. Monks spent years copying ancient manuscripts by hand, protecting teachings that might otherwise have disappeared with time. In an age before printing presses reached these mountains, every written page represented months of patient work and generations of accumulated knowledge. The architecture of Hemis reflects both beauty and practicality. Thick stone walls protect the buildings from freezing winters, while wooden balconies and carved windows display the craftsmanship of Himalayan artisans. At the center lies a large courtyard where monks gather during important ceremonies and where the famous Hemis Festival fills the monastery with color, music, and sacred masked dances every summer. Inside, the atmosphere changes completely. Butter lamps cast a warm glow across centuries-old murals painted with Buddhist deities and symbolic teachings. Prayer halls are lined with finely carved wooden pillars, ancient statues, and shelves containing thousands of sacred texts wrapped in traditional silk cloth. Every room reflects a tradition that values knowledge as deeply as devotion. Yet despite its age and historical importance, Hemis has never become a silent monument, preserved only for visitors. It remains a living monastery. Long before the first rays of sunlight reach the valley, the monastery is already awake. The sound of traditional horns breaks the silence of the mountains, calling monks from their rooms toward the main assembly hall. Wrapped in deep red robes, they gather for the first prayers of the day, chanting ancient Buddhist scriptures that have been passed down through generations. Inside the hall, rows of butter lamps flicker beneath centuries-old murals, while the scent of incense slowly fills the air. For the monks, this is not a ceremony performed for visitors. It is a routine that has shaped life at Hemis for hundreds of years. After the morning prayers, the monastery gradually becomes a place of learning. Education here is not limited to reading sacred texts. Students are also taught discipline, compassion, meditation, and the responsibilities of monastic life, preparing them to preserve traditions that have survived for centuries. One of the most distinctive parts of Buddhist education is debate. In the monastery's courtyards, monks gather in small groups to discuss philosophical questions using a traditional style of debate that has been practiced across Tibetan Buddhism for generations. Through questions, answers, and carefully structured arguments, they strengthen both memory and understanding. To an outsider, the discussions may appear energetic and dramatic, but each movement and gesture follows a long-established method of teaching. Life inside Hemis remains remarkably simple. Meals are modest and prepared within the monastery itself. butter tea, roasted barley flour, known as sampa, rice, vegetables, and seasonal foods form the foundation of the monk's diet. Every meal reflects the Buddhist principle of simplicity, where food is valued as nourishment rather than luxury. Daily chores are shared among the community, with monks helping prepare meals, clean prayer halls, maintain the buildings, and care for the monastery's surroundings. Meditation is equally important. Throughout the day, many monks spend hours in quiet reflection, seeking greater awareness, patience, and inner discipline. Some choose periods of extended retreat, living in near-complete silence to deepen their spiritual practice. In these moments, the stillness of the surrounding mountains becomes part of the monastery itself, creating an environment where silence is not empty but deeply meaningful. Despite welcoming visitors from around the world, Hemis has never abandoned its original purpose. It is not simply a historic monument or a tourist destination. It remains a living center of Buddhist practice, where every prayer, every lesson, and every act of daily discipline continues a tradition that has endured through generations. But once each year, this quiet monastery transforms completely as thousands of pilgrims and travelers gathered to witness one of the most extraordinary religious celebrations in the Himalayas. For most of the year, Hemis Monastery is a place of quiet prayer and meditation. Its courtyards remain peaceful. Monks follow their daily routines. Visitors walk silently through the prayer halls, and the valley returns to its familiar stillness. But once every year, everything changes. Thousands of pilgrims, local families, and travelers from around the world make their way into the hidden valley to celebrate the Hemis Festival, the monastery's most important religious event and one of the largest Buddhist festivals in Ladakh. The celebration is held in honor of Guru Padmasambhava, also known as Guru Rinpoche, the great Buddhist master who played a central role in spreading Vajrayana Buddhism across the Himalayan region during the 8th century. Many Buddhists believe his wisdom protected the teachings of Buddhism during difficult times, and the festival is dedicated to remembering his life and spiritual legacy. As the morning sun reaches the monastery courtyard, long ceremonial horns announce the beginning of the celebrations. Monks emerge wearing elaborate silk robes and beautifully crafted wooden masks representing enlightened beings, protective deities, and symbolic figures from Buddhist teachings. Then the music begins. The slow rhythm of drums, cymbals, and traditional horns fills the valley as the monks perform the famous charm dance. To many first-time visitors, it appears to be a colorful cultural performance. In reality, every movement carries religious meaning. Each step, each gesture, and every mask represents Buddhist teachings about compassion, wisdom, the cycle of life, and the victory of good over ignorance. These sacred dances have been carefully preserved for centuries and continue to be performed almost exactly as they were by generations of monks before them. One of the most extraordinary moments of the festival occurs during special celebration years, when the monastery displays its enormous sacred tanka. This giant silk religious painting is one of Hemis Monastery's greatest treasures. Carefully preserved inside the monastery, it is displayed only on rare occasions, drawing thousands of pilgrims who believe that seeing the sacred image brings spiritual blessings. For many visitors, witnessing the unveiling of the Thangka becomes the most unforgettable moment of their journey to Hemis. Beyond the public celebrations, the monastery also protects an extraordinary collection of Buddhist heritage. Ancient statues, handwritten manuscripts, ritual instruments, traditional weapons, jewelry, and sacred relics have been preserved within Hemis for generations. Together, they tell the story of a monastery that was not only a place of worship, but also a guardian of Himalayan history, art, and scholarship. When the festival finally comes to an end, the crowds slowly leave the valley. The music fades. The masks are carefully stored away. The courtyard becomes quiet once again. And Hemis returns to the peaceful rhythm that has defined life here for more than 4 centuries, waiting patiently until another year brings the mountains back to life. For centuries, Hemis Monastery remained protected by its isolation. The surrounding mountains kept it hidden, difficult to reach, and largely untouched by the outside world. Life followed the same rhythm through generations, with monks preserving traditions that had survived for hundreds of years. But even the most remote places cannot remain unchanged forever. Today, modern roads connect Hemis with Leh, allowing thousands of visitors to reach the monastery each year. Tourism has brought new opportunities to the local economy, while improved transportation has made supplies, education, and healthcare more accessible than ever before. The monastery is no longer known only to pilgrims. Travelers, photographers, historians, and people from every corner of the world now arrive to experience one of Ladakh's greatest cultural treasures. Yet with greater attention comes greater responsibility. The increasing number of visitors places pressure on the monastery's ancient buildings, priceless murals, and fragile manuscripts that have survived for centuries. Harsh Himalayan weather continues to wear away wooden structures and painted walls, making preservation an ongoing challenge. Monks, conservation experts, and local communities now work together to protect this remarkable heritage so that future generations can experience it just as previous generations did. Climate change has also begun to affect the surrounding mountains. Glaciers that have supplied water to Ladakh for centuries are changing. Weather patterns have become less predictable, and the fragile ecosystem of the cold desert faces new environmental pressures. These changes remind us that even places which appear timeless remain connected to the changing world around them. Despite these challenges, the spirit of Hemis remains remarkably unchanged. Every morning, prayer still begins before sunrise. Young monks continue to study ancient scriptures. Butter lamps are lit inside centuries-old temples. Pilgrims still spin prayer wheels before entering the monastery. And the sound of chanting continues to echo across the valley, just as it has for generations. Perhaps that is what makes Hemis truly extraordinary. It is not simply an old monastery that survived history. It is a living community that continues to practice the same values of compassion, discipline, and spiritual learning in a rapidly changing world. In an age defined by speed and constant change, Hemis reminds us that some traditions do not survive because they resist time, but because each generation chooses to protect them. The monastery stands today as more than stone walls and ancient temples. It stands as a symbol of faith, resilience, and the enduring relationship between people, culture, and the Himalayas. Our journey through Hemis Monastery comes to an end, but countless stories still remain hidden among the mountains of Ladakh and across the remote corners of the Himalayas. If you enjoyed exploring one of the region's most remarkable spiritual landmarks, don't forget to subscribe for more cinematic documentaries from the world's most isolated villages, monasteries, and mountain communities. Because every hidden place has a story, and the next journey is waiting just beyond the mountains.